Hello and welcome to the Coffee and Hustle podcast. In this episode today, we're going to talk about the behind the scenes with cybersecurity. I am Carla with Designedbycarla, and joining me on this podcast discussion is Jonathan Hard, the CEO and president of H2L Solutions. Welcome, Jonathan.
Carla, it's great to be here.
So you specialize in cyber and information assurance and provide cybersecurity solutions for government and commercial customers. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
So do you want to give us a little insight about what your company does and what you provide from H2L Solutions?
Yeah, sure. So from a capabilities standpoint, there's a couple of different things that I guess I can speak to. So like you said, we work with government customers, both on the DoD or the Department of Defense side and the federal side. And on the commercial side, we work with local entities, banks, hospitals, even, private mom and pops kind of like stores to better give them a platform of cybersecurity for a reassurance that their things or their information is being as secure as possible as it can be going over the internet, and also being secured and sound, or also being taken care of that's on their servers and firewalls from that kind of adversarial approach.
Now, you mentioned, it says in here that you are a hub zone. Now, what does hub zone actually mean?
So hub zone is historically underutilized business zone. So every 10 years, the census comes out and they do their thing, and they, take a census of certain demographic places, socioeconomic kind of disadvantaged areas in cities, rural areas. And those areas are zoned as a hub zone. And so what the SBA, or the Small Business Association, does is, if your company is headquartered in one of those lower income areas of a city or suburb that's been classified as a hub zone, and 35% of your employees live in those areas, you can become a hub zone certified company. And what that does is it lets you go after certain government contractual set-asides that other companies can't go after. So it's kind of gives us a little leg up on going after other opportunities that have been put in this socioeconomic category that other regular companies that don't have their headquarters in those areas can't go after. So
the way I read it here is that you've been involved in information technology and security since 2008. So is this something that you've always done, or is it something that you kind of fell into? How did you get into this particular field?
So I definitely did not grow up in this field. I graduated high school at Lincoln County up in Fayetteville, Tennessee, went into the military, was doing field artillery things in the military, decided to go to college, went to Marion Military Institute in near north of Selma, or Marion, Alabama, and got my degree in arts, an associate of arts. Then went to UAH, got my business management degree at UAH. And I didn't really get into the information assurance cybersecurity world until I came back from a deployment to Iraq. So I was deployed to Iraq in 2007, 2008, came back, and I was hired by a local defense industrial base contractor here in town. It was SAIC, and they're like, we like your foundation, especially with your military experience. We want you to learn information assurance. And so that's kind of where I grew up in from a cybersecurity information assurance perspective.
So it's really interesting how you went from one field, right, into something completely different. So if you would have stayed into the first degree that you decided that you wanted to get, where could you have seen yourself in a different future at this point?
Yeah, so before I deployed to Iraq, I was a FedEx delivery driver. So wearing those short shorts and the uniforms and everything, and yeah, exactly. And I looked at what the full-time FedEx drivers were making, the ones, because I was only part-time because I was working myself while I was in college at UAH, and so I was working part-time. But they'd only they would max out around 38 to 45,000. And of course they would get overtime. And I knew that was not what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. So, without being, a blessing, getting picked up by SAIC and getting plugged into the defense industrial base, I think that certain opportunities would have been definitely limited with the degree that I had in this town specifically.
Well, and if you go back and you think about, if you watch other successful people, and I think we all do, is like who's more successful that we tend to kind of follow sometimes. And you listen to their story, and it's like it's almost like that. You have to be in the right place at the right time with the right mindset and willing to change in your industry. And so granted that you went from being a FedEx driver to now this guy that is well known in the community, right? So you're well known and everybody tends to know and they gravitate to you. And I don't know if you know this or not, but if you meet Jonathan, he's an incredible individual that kind of like just, it's almost like a magnet to you, I think. I don't know. I don't know if you sense that or not, but you're based here in Huntsville, but you do provide services for other locations. What is those locations?
Yeah, so I think that we've done work in almost all 50 states, including, other countries. So Germany, Honduras, Guam, Rota, Spain, and primarily, doing cybersecurity services. So in some cases we'll have, like, our Guam work is for the Navy, and we have people out there currently right there on the island doing work. And so, I mean, like, we're well diversified area from a geographical perspective. Where we have the most people is obviously here in Huntsville, but then we have a small presence in Warren, Michigan, right outside Deloitte. I mean, not Deloitte, but Detroit, right outside Detroit. And then we also have people in Colorado Springs supporting the Missile Defense Agency there. And then we have people at Fort Belvoir in the DC capital region.
So, and this year you won the Inc. 5000 2021 award for the America's fastest growing private company. And you're ranked really high, actually. Was it 2,278 or whatever that number is? And so, but you are now known as the only Alabama-based security firm to be recognized. Now, how do you feel about that? Is that your first time getting that award?
So it is, and we grew. So last year we grew 187%. We were super blessed, and we ranked right there in the middle on the Inc. 5000 list. So we are very honored to be right there in the top 5,000 companies within the United States that are growing at such an exponential rate. And from a cyber, we were ranked the only one, I think in Alabama, because that's all we do is cybersecurity. There are a lot of other firms that were on that list, great firms, and they do cybersecurity as well, but they do other things as well, engineering services, modeling and simulation, but all we 100% focus on is cybersecurity.
So that makes a big difference because you're focused in this particular industry and know the fact that your company's grown. But when you started H2L Solutions, did you have a vision for the company, or is it just kind of like this model that is continuing to change and grow?
So when we started H2L Solutions, we had no business plan. We had no income. We had no contracts. I didn't know anyone in Huntsville, literally nobody that was in the defense industrial base from a business development perspective, or even on the government services, like government employee perspective. Like, because a lot of companies, they start out, they have a business plan. They have in some cases, they might already have a contract that certain government officials are saying, hey, if you start your own business, Mr. or Mrs. whoever, we'll flow you some work. Not the case. We totally started from scratch, and we were very, very lucky that we did listen to a lady, Miss Mary Jane Fleming, and she used to be at the PTAC office at UAH, and she just recently retired. But we sat down, we listened to her. She said, hire a good lawyer, hire a good accountant, and get a good bank that will work for you. So we set up the foundation for the company, 8 years ago, and it was a very solid foundation. And then from a business strategy perspective, I 100% knew that no one was going to come to H2L Solutions because we just started a company, right? Yeah. So I started to use social media platforms, specifically LinkedIn, and connected with other people that were in the business community here locally, other CEOs, other CTOs, CIOs, business development, capture leads, and I connected with them. And then I reached out to them, always in a humbleistic perspective, and said, Mr. or Mrs. So-and-so, my name is Jonathan Hart. I'm the CEO of a cybersecurity company. Could I get maybe 10 to 30 minutes of your time and kind of pitch you what we're doing? And 90% of them responded, and I met with 100% of the 90% that responded. And so I stopped counting after about, I think it was 3 years in business, and I had briefed in person probably over 600 CEOs, wow. Not just in Huntsville, but in other places. DC, I'd go to DC, I'd go out west and have a face-to-face meeting with these leaders in their communities. And what I would do is always offer them something. So if the company was an engineering services company, I would go and look at opportunities for engineering services that maybe they would be interested in. Maybe they had not seen these opportunities yet. So I'd send them that opportunity. In some cases, they were like, "Hey, Jonathan, we didn't even see this. This is perfect for us. We're going to go after this. And because you brought it to us, we're going to give you 10% of this work." And so, building relationships based on positive, or what I could bring from a positive perspective into their lives, has really come full circle. And now our firm, our cybersecurity firm, has went from where I'm going and trying to get on everyone's contract to where we've become this kind of boutique cybersecurity firm where people come to us and say, "Hey, Jonathan, we got this PWS or a section in this PWS cybersecurity. We hear great things about what you're doing. We want you to come and join our team. And could you also write to this section?" And absolutely, of course, we definitely 100% put in the work before the award is given. So, a lot of companies sometimes, and it's no detriment to their small business, but they just don't have the power or the employee power to write a proposal. And whereas we try to make sure that we do give that feedback and that emphasis on writing, so that the primes see that we're putting in our homework and our effort into their success as well.
Well, I think that's actually pretty amazing to know that you went from no real structure to now this incredible company that continues to grow. And now you've got this vision and mission. And also, I think the fact that you are a really hands-on individual with your company. And that, I guess it goes back to that question. You're well known for the LinkedIn connections in the community. People reach out to you, go, "How did you build this LinkedIn connection, this business to business connection?" But you built that. So can you give us some insights on how you did that?
Yeah. So, I paid for the premium account. I think it's like $525 a year, but what that gives you, it gives you certain insights in like who's looking at your profile, but also it gives you, I think, 42 messages that you can send without being a connection. But it also gives you kind of unlimited connection power, where you can connect with as many people as you want to, up to, of course, they have that 30,000 limit cutoff. And once you reach that 30,000 limit or connections, people have to start following your profile. You can't be a first connection anymore. But what that did was I realized that platform itself, LinkedIn specifically, gave me the capability to talk to people that I normally would not be able to talk to ever in my lifetime.
So in some ways, are you a kind of an introvert, extrovert?
So maybe, I don't know. I think I'm more extroverted because I'll talk to anyone, but I might have never had a possibility or a chance to talk to that individual in person.
Yeah.
For instance, there was the Undersecretary of Defense at the time, I think his name was Frank Kendall. I connected with him on LinkedIn. And to this day, 6 years, it took him 6 years to respond, but I know he read the message. So 4 years ago, when we became HubZone certified, I read an article in the National Defense or the NDIA, National Defense Industry Association's magazine. And it was about how the Department of Defense was not meeting its HubZone goal. So I messaged him on LinkedIn and I said, Honorable Mr. Kendall, this is Jonathan Hard. I just got our HubZone certification. However, we've not been able to do anything with it because we can't get our facilities clearance because, we've not been sponsored by anybody. The week following when I sent that message on LinkedIn, I got a call from an SES out of the Pentagon who was over the DoD small business goals. And he called me and said, "Hey, I got an email from the Honorable Frank Kendall. I need you to come up to the Pentagon because I need to have a meeting with you to see how we can help you." So no way in HE hockey sticks would I have ever gotten an audience with Frank Kendall, being a startup small business, in year 1 or 2 with like 2 or 3 employees, But through that social media platform, LinkedIn, it made it possible.
That's amazing because, honestly, that's how actually, I think you and I actually connected through LinkedIn. We were going to do a program together called LinkedIn Local. COVID came and we ended up having to cancel. But then you reached out to me and you asked me this question. You said, how well are you? You asked me, how well are you versed in SEO? And I'm like, I'm an SEO guru. And I kind of smarted off at you because I was like, yeah, okay. And I didn't want you to take me serious, but then I thought, if I don't respond to him in the manner I think that he might actually, because this is who I am too. I'm personally just say whatever I have to say. And I think you're just as transparent as I am as well. So I think that LinkedIn is really just a great possibility for a lot of people that don't utilize that tool that you've done over the years. And have you maxed out your number of connections?
Yeah, so I maxed out, I think a year and a half ago. And that is the only frustrating part with LinkedIn is that when you hit that 30,000, you cannot connect with people.
Maybe you'll have to create another LinkedIn account. Like Part 2, Jonathan Hart LinkedIn.
I don't know. Maybe I need to go through there and filter some out. But I agree that LinkedIn, we can actually tie revenue on contracts that we've won to LinkedIn specifically.
Yeah.
And just to reiterate how LinkedIn can really help your business. I just proved it to my employees, especially some of my business development employees last week. I went through and it was 2 hours on LinkedIn and I messaged every single, I won't say the names, but 3 or 4 different large business, huge, multi-billion-dollar businesses. 70% of them responded, and I got a meeting with 100% of the 70% that
okay,
responded.
So that's incredible.
Yeah. So capabilities briefs with the large primes, right?
Yeah.
So,
people would, I think they really crave to figure out a way to connect with people online, and I think we kind of reach out to the tool using Facebook a lot of times, but if you've mastered the LinkedIn process, especially a business connection, if you're serious, if that is the way to do it, it's just really trying to, getting your name out there. And I think also your face is more involved. People see you more, and they easily recognize you in the community when they see you. And you're very community-based oriented too. You're very involved in your community. So what are some of the programs that you involve yourself in?
So at the beginning, our company teamed up with the Harris Home for Children, and we started their annual golf event or their annual golf fundraising event, and that was really well. We did that for 3 or 4 years, and I was on the board of directors for the Harris Home for Children, which is a huge passion. I really believe in investing in our future generations that are going to be becoming, leaders of tomorrow. Because if we don't invest in those future leaders, what better investment to make, right?
Right.
Some other things, so the Botanical Garden, love that organization. The Burritt on the Museum, I'm on their fundraising committee. Committee of 100 is a great organization. They do a lot of things within the community. Thrive, which is a non-for-profit urgent care community healthcare center here in North Alabama. They're amazing. I'm on the board of directors for Thrive. They do a lot of amazing work in the healthcare in the healthcare arena for this community. There's a lot.
So you just started, did you start out with just like 1 or 2 and it just kind of is growing over the years?
Yeah, well, I started out with one specifically, Harris Home for Children, because I didn't want to get over committed. And then what happened is, as I met more and more people and were made aware of more and more great organizations that were out there, I slowly started to align myself with these other organizations and trying to help them. Most of them, I can help them through fundraising and connecting them with people who might want to donate money or monetary donations to their organizations, because I do have a lot of contacts and people that I know, and more of a connector now for those organizations than actually being a part of their board and making strategic decisions on where they want to go.
Yeah. And honestly, when people meet you, you have this certain style about you, right? You're just who you are. You're always proud to wear your hat. You're always in your jeans. You represent your company so well. And so you're kind of like this, person that when you meet you want to become friends with you too. So, but being that you're in the cyber security aspect, what part of this industry do you want people to know about cybersecurity? Like, what can they do to protect their businesses, especially for those small businesses? What is some of those things that they need to do?
Depends on how well they want to protect and what it is that they're protecting. And like I talked on a couple of these subjects a few weeks ago. If your company, if you do like a car washing company and you deal in cash and that's your main capability, you might not have a high threat rating from an adversarial perspective. But say you take credit cards and you're a dentist office, or you're a small mom and pop's doctor, and you have people's personal identifiable information, their PII coming through, social security numbers, date of birth, things that from a value perspective or from a value asset perspective, adversaries would pay money for, then your threat level is going to be higher on what it is, on how they could infiltrate and take advantage of your lack of security. So it depends on what market space you're in, and that kind of correlates with how much cybersecurity you should apply to your business. For instance, we'll go with a doctor's office. I'd have multi-factor authentication set up. I'd have some kind of 5th gen or 6th gen firewall installed to where it's monitoring the traffic, data loss prevention, a lot of these different what was it else? There was something else, but those are the some you can.
So my thing is like this: if you're that small business that can afford a internal cybersecurity person, right? That those aspects of the business is so important, and we get too relaxed, right? We give people too much authorization internally, and we're not thinking about what could happen, right? Instead of being, we're more reactive than we are proactive,
right? And I would say if you have the resources to hire an internal cybersecurity, we'll say employee to help with your cybersecurity, I would challenge you to outsource that to a security operations center or to a managed security service provider, that their sole job is to protect your company, right? Because you're good at seeing and treating sick patients, not cybersecurity. You don't understand per se cybersecurity. They do. So if you have $50,000 or $60,000 to hire someone to do it, you get more bang for your buck by outsourcing that and then getting those extra benefits and someone watching and monitoring your IT systems and your network 24/7 than if you have that one person that comes in 8 to 5.
Because back in the day, when it was like, what do? We used to go out and buy just a McAfee virus protector and think that was going to solve all our solutions. Yeah. And now it's just gotten to where it's just so out of control.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you feel like that there's more to be done in cybersecurity, or do you feel like that it's a growing threat at this point, right?
Cybersecurity from a threat perspective is never going to go away. As long as we're connected to the internet, as long as more people are putting more of their information out there on the internet, as long as we're moving more to an Internet of Things culture, there's always going to be an appetite for hacking, for adversarial attacks.
So what makes so for me, it's like, okay, I understand that they want to steal someone's information to use it to as a more of an identity theft, right? But there's hackers out there that just want to hack just because they get their kicks out of it, right?
So that's true. Yeah, they just get their kicks out of it and they want to go and destroy someone's life. They want to see, or it's a challenge for them where they say, let's see if we can hack into this, company's servers and see what we can take to see if we can do it. Well, we see, and we have to turn down some of these. I refer some of these cases to some people that I know in town that kind of do that work. But I'll get spouses that call me all the time, whether it be female or a male, and they'll say, "Hey, I'm going through a divorce. I think my significant other has planted something, a Wi-Fi device or something in my house because everything, all my emails are being intercepted. He or she knows what I'm doing. They know my bank has been depleted. So those are very time consuming and they're kind of hard from a forensics evidence perspective to prove who's doing that. We have a couple people that we refer them to, but I mean, it's with the society becoming more and more informed on cybersecurity and also how to use information systems, we are seeing this kind of filter down to that kind of level from a divorce perspective, where people are going through these divorces, and whoever has the best information technology knowledge will set up like traps and
So is
and
this
things
friends
like that.
that are calling you, or is
No,
this
it's
just people?
People find
People
us on
just
the
call you
website,
and say,
they
"Hey, I need your help."
and desperate too. Like in some cases, I've actually referred these individuals to one of our partners called Trusted Internet up in New Hampshire, and because they're like, hey, they're attacking my business account, and I'm like, okay, man, I'm going to send you up north because they deal with that specifically. You got to pay probably $600 an hour.
Wow.
To
so
get
it's
there.
$600 an hour for
Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah,
so you ever told? So I guess that was one of my questions was. You've told people no, like this is not H2L Solutions.
Well, I've told people that we could try, and in some cases, in one case specifically, I pay for 2 hours of one of my employees' time, so to try to help the individual. But it's just unfortunately, there's not a lot of money in it, because a lot of these people just don't have a lot of money to sink into it, and the cybersecurity profession, the talent pool. They're charging $150 to, like I said, $600 an hour for their time.
$600 an hour.
So,
I could definitely use $600 an hour with you. So you definitely are honor and respect is something that you're very committed to, and you can, just meeting you over and over, just knowing the fact that every time I've been around you, you definitely give back to the local community, but you're also, you signed back into being in the military. You are now back in reserves, right?
I did. Yeah.
So thank you for your service.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So what made you decide to go that route?
Right. So, I got out in 2012 after doing 12 years in the Alabama National Guard, and I started the company in 2014. And so from 2014 until 2019, all these conferences, DoD conferences I was going to, and I met a lot of retired generals, a lot of retired full bird colonels, telling my story, and they're like, you're a fool if you do not get back in and finish your 8 years. You will regret it for the rest of your life. And so I finally, over time, that's just kind of resonated in me. And then there was two reserve, one reserve full bird colonel here in Huntsville, Mr. Curtis Strange. He said, I'll sign a letter of recommendation for you. And then I had a retired general from USACE, Lieutenant General Griffin, or Major General Griffin, and he signed a letter as well. And submitted my packet back to the sessions board, and they let me back in January of 2020. So before I reached the cutoff age to re-enlist.
So how do you balance? Because that's like H2L Solutions. Here you are, the president and owner. Now you're as reserve. You're a full-time father. How do you balance that, and how do you balance that lifestyle? So
very, very delicately. Thankfully, I share that time when my ex-wife does have the kids. So I don't have the kids all the time. If I had the kids all the time, I don't know how I would do it. But with the National Guard or with the reserves, I can still run H2L Solutions pretty well, no matter where geographically I'm located, because a lot of it is now I'm at the strategic level, not the operations level. I've got some really, really good operations employees, my COO, my CFO, my strategic business officer, strategic capture lead, and then of course our operations officer on the government side, government contract side. They're taking care of most of the day-to-day activities. So my role at H2L has actually really kind of shifted to business development and strategic long-term growth, and I love that. That's where I get to go after potential opportunities that don't need my everyday attention from actually running the company. I still do get in the weeds a little bit, but then I get my hand slapped because I don't need to be in the weeds as much. Yeah. So.
Well, I think that's incredible that you could take your business from the model that it was as this baby, right? And now it's become this grown adult. Do you have visions of what the next part of H2L Solutions is going to be about?
Yeah, I do. So, I like I said, I grew up in SASC, that firm, it was at 45,000 employees, and of course they broke off. But, I view H2L Solutions as a family lifestyle company. And what that means is when you come to H2L Solutions, you're a member of a family, you're just not a number. And I would like, in with every small business owner, they love that, mentality and that feeling. There's always a transition to where, when we grow and when we get to, 200, 300, 400, I'm not going to be able to meet everybody face to face. And that family, I want to try to maintain that family culture within the firm and continue to grow. And I'm challenged myself to do that. And I still go out and I meet our employees in Colorado Springs. I try to go out there twice a year. Same thing with Michigan, and then same thing out there at Fort Belvoir. But there'll be a point where that will be really difficult to do.
That's amazing. I think that is something that you've developed, and that's so important because a lot of times we're so quick to fill a position and not just because people can put information on a resume. They make it look good, right? And you take on a lot of interns. You've given them opportunity. They're learning and growing within the company, but you also take the time to develop this culture. And I think it's so important to have that in your business because you want people to have the same drive and passion and love for what you do, right? You got to love what you're doing. And that really shows within your company. And so do you feel like when you take on interns, what do you look for when you bring them in?
So I used to be heavily involved in that screening process, and we would look for motivation. We would look for dedication and desire, really, to learn, even if they were a paid versus unpaid, internship. And those were the key factors that I would look for, whether they had a 2.7, 2.0 GPA versus a 4.0.
Right.
If they were passionate and they were willing to learn, we were willing to take them on. That's transition now. My director of training, Jackie Blue, is leading that. We have minimum 20 interns a year now that come through H2L Solutions. We have a training program. And so we even have some high school interns that actually do co-op and they come out to H2L Solutions in the afternoon and they're co-oping with the company.
And you provide this because you see that even though there's cybersecurity jobs out there, you're giving them an opportunity to get the experience.
Well, what we've seen is very unfortunate. A lot of the government, defense industrial base, or the government jobs or government contracting jobs specifically that are entry level require 4 to 5 years experience. How does a young college grad just graduating college have 4 or 5 years experience? And that's just get an entry level job. So what we've done is we created this program to where when they do graduate, they have at a minimum 3 to 4 years experience. They have a security certification, whether it's Security Plus, Network Plus, or another security-oriented certification. They have a security clearance because we try to get them on a cleared program. And then they have their degree and they have everything that they would need in order to go after another larger company that is requiring that years of experience, which is a killer because we have a huge gap. We have hundreds of thousands of cybersecurity jobs aren't being met because of the lack of professionals to fill those.
Yeah,
and
that experience.
You can't have that experience if you're just graduating from college. So we get in there with the universities. We preach this. We say, listen, send us the kids send us the young adults that are wanting to do internships because this is a recipe for success for their future and also for the country's future from a cybersecurity execution perspective. And they remember that about our firm. They're like, oh my God, H2L Solutions brought me in. They taught me what I wasn't being taught in college, which is actually how to do the work.
Yeah.
And then they set me up for success in my career. And that's going to come back, and that's going to come back 100-fold whenever these young adults get into the leadership positions in the next 5 to 10 years for their firms that they're working for. They're definitely going to remember our firm. And they're going to be like, yeah, we want to work with you, or yeah, we've got some work for this government contract we want you to do. Thank you so much for investing in my career when literally no one else would do so.
Yeah, and that's I have to be honest with you, that is a very big asset for people. If they are not willing to take on that internship, they're definitely losing out. Because I do remember when I graduated, I had a programming degree with 2 minors, and there was absolutely no job for me. I had no experience. had some experience in programming, but not enough to get me in the foot of the door.
Right.
And back then, I'm not going to tell you my age, but back then, I was pretty much, not a lot of females were in that industry for programming. And luckily, a family-owned business, right? They took me in and they showed me some things that I would never have learned. And I don't know where my future would have been if I did not have that opportunity. So when you have opportunity, you better take it.
Absolutely.
So I think that's important. And you've come a long way. I mean, if you think back, a lot of us don't think back. So I think back sometimes and we could have gone, left or right. And here you are. I mean, you have something to really go. So do you feel like you're an inspiration to your children?
I
or do you feel like you're just the dad right now?
Well, when I have them, we do fun things like we'll go on vacations. I took them to the beach, took them to Yellowstone, and I like to. What I'm trying to show them is the entrepreneurship energy that I'm trying to, I guess, flow that down to them and let them. My plan for them is I'm going to create a company for each one of them when they turn 13. Whatever kind of company they want to do, we're still talking about that. The oldest one, he turns 13 next year, but I'm going to create a LinkedIn page for them. I'm going to manage that page, and then, they're going to be a CEO of whatever company. And, Daddy will help them, tailor that. But I'm trying to create entrepreneurs, and I'm investing in my own children so that they know what I don't take self-praise very well. I don't know how to process it, but I want to show them that you can be successful if you put your mind to it and you believe in yourself. And so there's very little things that will get you in trouble when you're at Daddy's house. And the one thing that it's a pet peeve of mine is if they say I can't, because they'll say that, and I say there's only two words that I do not accept, and that's saying can't and shut up. those are words that I will not tolerate. No, not shut up. It's hate. I'm sorry.
Okay.
It's can't and hate. Because if you actually hate someone, that's a strong word. You just don't throw that word out frivolously. You really think about it.
That's a dirty word.
It is.
It's a very dirty word. It is a hard word because when you say that word, it's such a word that is so demeaning.
Yeah.
Over a lot of words, but so going back to the word I can't. So I back then, when we were younger, we didn't have a lot of role models. Like if you think back, we didn't have those people that really kind of took us up to the level. I mean, because I'm pretty much the only girl in my side of the family that actually has a college degree and owns a business, by the way. And so
kudos to you also.
Oh, well, thank you. I mean, there's times where, I don't know about you, but sometimes being a business owner is like, okay, I need a break today. I need a moment, and I don't know if you feel that way. I mean, I'm doing this for 20 years, and so there's times where you're just like, I just need to get away from everybody.
Yeah.
But I used to have a teacher. I had a dance teacher. Her name was Miss Lindsay Hall, and she did that. I can't, and she would say, I can't, never could, never would, and I remember it to this day. So if somebody says I can't, they will never try it, and so I always say that I can't, never could, never would. So I never thought I'd be a business owner, never thought that I'd be this far in my life. We can't envision what our goals are. But if we have people like you that give people opportunity, and that it is their responsibility to recognize it. But I do firmly believe that we are not here to teach you everything. You've got to learn how to fail. Have you ever feel like you failed at some things? What is some of the things you could say you failed at?
So I would say the first one that comes to mind is marriage. Right. And, it is what it is. But from that perspective, other than, marriage, because when two people decide they can't really coexist with one another and they have children, it then needs to become not about you or that other individual. It needs to be 100% about what's best for those children in that relationship. Because guess what? You both decided to have them. You've decided that you can't coexist with one another, but those children did not ask to come into the world. Right. And so it took me a minute to get oriented and focused on that objective. So it's all about the kids, right? And not me and not, my former, spouse, but the kids. Other things, I don't forget. Well, I guess another time was we tried to get into the financial sector or financial security sector and grow that area from a diversification perspective, and we failed horribly at it. And it is just you go out there. It's a crapshoot. It's a gamble. You're trying to break into a new market segment, and I think we spent like $27,000 and just fell right flat on our face. But I have every anticipation of going back and re-engaging that market sector and going back after that.
I was going to ask you, is it something that you kind of go back and readjust?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Just readjust, refire, and go back after it. And just same thing we did breaking into the Department of Defense Industrial Base. Just continue, never give up. Right? Never give up. If one strategy doesn't work, pull back, replan, and attack or maneuver a different way until you finally land that one contract that gives you past performance. Figure out how to replicate that and continue to move forward with those objectives.
Well, I think that it's good that you have such a great team of people too, and knowing that those people have the same passion and drive as you do, and you always feel that way. But did you have any influences in your life that made you become this person that you are today?
So I think my grandfather is probably the one I've mentioned in the past. He had. I didn't know this, and after talking to him, I knew about two of them. But he had 4 companies that he started whenever he was young, and 2 of those were very successful, and 2 of them were based here in Huntsville. One was called Hard Engineering in the late 80s, and he sold that to a Japanese company here in Huntsville. He's always lived in Fayetteville, Tennessee, but he actually do you know where Amanda Howard's location is? That whole bottom floor used to be Hard Engineering.
Okay.
Right where they live in front of the Walmart. And then the other company was Connex, and is in the telephone industry. Right when operators would still pick up the phone, his technology was automated orders. So you're talking to the like a robot or something like that. So and he sold that one too, and then he retired. But I mean, he's always had an entrepreneur spirit, and I saw growing up, his success at never giving up and always continuing to put forth the effort and the drive to be successful. But unlike him, I mean, he was an inventor, right? He invented things. He had patents and things. I've not inherited that that mind of his where the drive is there, but his just
he knew things before you. Yeah.
Oh man,
it was amazing because my dad was that way. He
really?
Was a true entrepreneur. He was just like one of those that is either, there's always 2 types of people in the world. It's either a leader or a follower. And he asked me that when I got into my business, and he was determined, you've got to try it, and he was always an entrepreneur. So, knowing the fact that he said that, he asked me that question, and I was like, wow, but he always knew what was coming. And I'm like, did he have a crystal ball?
Yeah.
Did he, and now it's like, now that he's gone, I don't have that person calling me, always asking me about my business. He's like, okay. Because that was his favorite thing, was to call me and say, okay, how's business going? And then we would talk business. And then it was like, okay, well, what's going on with the family? But it was business first, family second to him. But he was definitely a family man for sure. So does people misunderstand you, or what do they misunderstand about you the most? Do you know what that is?
That I guess that I do have a real side that's not, I guess, comical all the time. So, I do have feelings, people. No, I'm joking. Yeah, I mean, like some people, like, well, and I've heard this, actually, someone was teaming with us on an opportunity, and they hit the speaker button because they were talking to another potential teammate. And this person, oh my God.
They did not know.
They didn't know that I was in the room, and they still don't. I'll never tell who it was, but they were like, well, he is just unpredictable. I just don't know if he's got a good reputation. And if the one thing that I would like people to know is that I 100% care about the security of the country and doing what is right 100% of the time for the gems of the country, which would be the warfighters, right? The warfighters that protect the country, doing what's right for them. And, at H2L Solutions, I can 100% guarantee you that we do not worship the almighty dollar. We have lost so much money, and I would never say this to anyone but you. We've lost so much money, doing projects for other companies because I knew it was the right thing to do, and they couldn't maybe afford our services, so we go in there and do it for free because they needed that, right?
Well, and I think that's a very true statement, because in the business, to survive, sometimes you have to take a loss, right? But you do some things because you like and care about what you do, and you care about the people that are in it. So sometimes we take those losses because then it gives us the room to grow. But it also gives us an opportunity to see that there's other things that come. Like, you think that sooner or later things will come your way, right? So I'm a true believer that sometimes we lose and we win, but not everybody feels that way. So, some businesses, they have this cut out box, and that whatever's in this box, that's what they're going to give you. But they don't tend to bend for those people, for clients. And I also, if you knew me, I interview you before I take you on as a client, and I will say, no, you're not the fit for me. But I didn't learn that lesson in the very beginning. I learned that lessons over the years, and people ask me, you tell people no? Well, yeah. And I've also fired a client, but he also turned around and rehired me. So in some ways we came to this meet and greet. But I think that that's so important, is to still be who you are uniquely.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's actually, I think I am so uniquely me that it either turns people off or people love it. And I'm fine with that. Right.
Well, yeah, not everybody's going to like you.
Yeah.
And that's okay. And I think that as business owners, it's okay. We're okay with that. Because not everybody is going to like what you do and what you say, because they don't necessarily understand you. And also sometimes they don't really understand why you do what you do. So, but you don't have to give people a reason, right? There's no reason
Absolutely.
to really describe who we are to them. They either like us or they don't. And sometimes it's okay. But if you had one question, what is one thing that you're not really good at? Do you know what that is?
I'm not really good at. So I always following through with meetings that I schedule, and that is, has been from day one. And good thing is I have, even our meeting today, right? It wasn't I was going to reschedule, but it just is like, in me, like for some reason, whenever I see that, okay, I've got to be here at this certain time. Oh man.
How's that going to fit?
Yeah. How's that going to fit into this busy schedule? So I have people now in place at the company that make sure that that weakness of mine, where I'm like, how am I going to make this happen? I got this deadline to do. There's no way I can drive over town and sit down and do this.
Yeah.
I have to make sure I have people that are like, no, you are going to do that. And you will do that. You've committed to doing that, and it looks very bad if you don't do that. And so I'm like, oh, roger that, okay, and that's not here, but that was with my whole schedule, right? So I mean,
do you fill your schedule up?
Yeah.
Do you feel like that you punish yourself when you do that too much?
Sometimes. Oh, and so another thing is when to say no.
Yes.
That's probably the better. No. That's probably the better answer to that question.
I think, that is something that we have to learn over the years. A lot of times people just are just yes, just because they want to show that they do this work, right?
And Dr. Marvin Carroll, who was the CEO and still is the CEO of Tech Masters. He loves giving back to small businesses. And 7 years ago, I went to one of his seminars, and he said, and I took this to heart. He said, always say yes. And I'm like, yes, sir, I will. Always say yes. Can you do this capability, H2L Solutions? Yes, we can. Walking out of the room, holy heck.
No,
how are we going to do that?
How
right?
are we going to do that?
And, but I mean, in some instances, from a rest and peacefulness perspective, it's good to learn how to say no.
Yes.
And set healthy boundaries for your sanity reasons.
I think that, I'm a workaholic. I don't know about you, but I think that, there is no real days off, to be honest with you. We just have to take them in strides. So I may not work a full day. It may take, 4 hours to work a full 4 hours, and I'm committed to that. Then I may take the rest of the day, and I may throw in a nap. I'm going to be honest with you, because I cannot be creative and strategic all day long for 8 hours, 9 hours. But then I'll work till 9, 10 o'clock at night. So I think that sometimes when you're a business owner, you learn to adjust, your schedule and stuff. So if you could go back 10 years ago, what is something that you wish you had known?
10 years. Whew.
that you would be this
Well,
successful?
Well, no, I guess from a business perspective, if I was cognitively and knew everything I knew now and was reversed 10 years, I would be, let's see, my late 20s. I might have done the business structure differently on what our capability skill set. And I might have invested more in, like, say, a hardware solution to some kind of problem, and been a little more focused. Because I think, starting coming from scratch the way we did, it really took us 4 years before we kind of got a solid foundation from a capability and work for past performance underneath our belts. And if I had, I guess, understood the market that I was going into from a strategic level, not from an operational level, because I knew how to do the work, but I didn't know strategically everything else that went into going after the work and paying people. Whenever I started the company, I thought that, if I'm paying you $20 an hour, I charge the government $20 an hour for that. Nope. No way, not even close.
Yeah.
And so doing more research and, maybe even understanding about a lot more about, business just in a general aspect of how, overhead works, how insurance works, how all these other benefits tie into that labor rate that you charge in order to make money.
Yeah, even if it's 80% over, right?
Absolutely.
Well, I think that's the hardest part, is knowing that if we could go back, is like, how much money did we lose, or how much money did we spend and didn't, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Those, gosh, they didn't teach these things in school, you know what I mean? That business sense.
Yeah.
And I think back then we didn't really have Google to like lean on, and now we do. But thank gosh for business coaches. Do you have a business coach? Do you have somebody that you look up to?
Yeah. So he's since sold his company, and I think he's retired. But Mike Alvarez was a great mentor of mine. He actually gave us our first contract when we started the company, and it was to come in and do a cybersecurity assessment for Ventori, his company. And so I haven't talked to him about a year, because he's, like I said, sold his company. And he's at the house.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And we'll end here, but do you feel like COVID really ramped up the business? Do you feel like that it didn't slow down for you, did it?
No, it didn't. COVID didn't affect us the way that it affected, most of the economy, right? So from a defense industrial base and DoD perspective, what the Department of Defense did is they kind of let remote work actually happen. And, the government didn't shut down, and those requirements still had to be met. And since everything's now remote, cybersecurity needs even probably increased a little bit.
Yeah.
And so we did not see any kind of slowing down from a growth perspective for the company, even though, COVID was in full play and full force.
I can honestly say that I did. I think at one time when it first happened for me, it was like, okay, what do I do? But then it was just like, it didn't stop, and it hasn't slowed down for, so certain types of businesses, I think, changed.
Yeah.
But you know what, Jonathan, I just want to say thank you so much for coming out today. I know you're a busy man, but I just want to say how great it was for you to be on this podcast today. And thank you for listening to today's episode, Behind the Scenes with Cybersecurity, and Jonathan Hard. Again, and hopefully we'll do this again soon.
Yeah, it would be fun. I really enjoyed it, Carla.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much.